Well, I think I applied to over 200 jobs in the end, which I've never, there have been times where I've applied to like, I don't know, 20 jobs. It's straight out of uni and that sort of thing. But I think the worst thing was most of them just didn't respond.
It's the Germany Experience, the podcast about life in Germany as seen through the eyes of outsiders. I'm your host, Sean. Visit the website, thegermanyexperience.de, for more information on the show and to get in touch with me. You can also email me at info@thegermanyexperience.de if you want to talk to me. My guest this week is Steffi from the UK, who is known as The Adventures of Steffi on Instagram and who has a blog of the same name. I could tell from her blog post that she's very insightful and she's open, and so I knew she'd make a great guest. Steffi is someone who struggled with depression for around 15 years before she moved to Germany, and she had just started getting things back on track in the UK when she decided to make the move to Germany. And after a brief honeymoon period in the new country, a difficult job search and other factors brought her back to a really dark place. I think stories like Steffi's are so important because they highlight the impact of expat life on mental health. And the more that we hear that other people are going through things that we might also be going through, the more it helps. And that is why I wanted to talk about this topic with Steffi. Steffi and I discussed the importance of seeking out help when you need it, which is not always that easy to do when you're living in a foreign country and the language is not your native language. We also discuss finding therapy in your native language and how online therapy sessions are not as ineffective as you might think. We also discuss some of the other coping mechanisms that helped Steffi. And I also check in on how Steffi is doing with her New Year's resolutions that she made in a blog post at the beginning of 2021. Here's Steffi. So, Steffi, I've read in a few places, I think it was on your blog, and you may have said it to me when you emailed me and reached out about the show, is that you describe yourself as an unexpected expat. And here you are living in Germany. So I'm very curious how you ended up in Germany and why you view yourself as an unexpected expat.
Yeah. So basically, I was happily going about life in Britain. Never ever crossed my mind to move abroad. I kind of missed all of the exchange trips that people did in school and stuff like that. I never went on any of those.
Right.
Yeah. And then one day my boyfriend texted me and was just like, "How do you feel about moving to Germany?" And I was like, what? Yeah. So he said, yeah, he'd been potentially offered a job out here. He'd been offered at least an interview. And yeah, so he came out to do the interview, said, "I love it. I want to do it." And I was 26 at the time. So, and my boyfriend's a year older than me. So we were still kind of young enough and renting and stuff in the UK that we just didn't have any long-term commitments in the UK to stick to. So we just decided to up sticks and leave.
Wow.
Very unexpectedly.
How did that feel? Because would you describe yourself as the adventurous type? Like, is that something that you would consider doing?
No, I'm a planner. I'm a big, even now, if we take day trips, I will Google 3 different routes that we can take if one road is closed. Right. I will pre-book tickets if I can. I'm not, I really try and work out. And that's kind of comes from being quite an anxious person. So I always like to know where I'm going and what I'm doing.
Yes.
So yeah, but my boyfriend is very spontaneous. And I think it kind of compliments me well because it encourages me to do stuff that's maybe a little bit risky. And he was just like, I really want to try this at least.
Yeah.
So I was just like, oh, okay, fine, let's do it.
Well, first of all, Steffi, I want to say that if you're a planner, you're among your people now. Germany is the place for planners. That's the first thing I want to say. And the second thing is, it's interesting that you say that you are a planner and your boyfriend is sort of spontaneous, because that's exactly the same situation I have with my wife. I am very spontaneous and all over the place. Like I don't have a structure. And in fact, whenever there's a structure, I get freaked out. I'm like, I can't, like, I just don't like it. And my wife is the most rigid, like planned person I know. And exactly what you say is like we've both changed over the time. So I've become way more planned than I was. And when I say way more planned, I mean like I'm still pretty much all over the place, but I'm better than I was. And she has also loosened up and become a little more spontaneous. So it kind of works, I think, when you've got those polar opposites that come together.
Yeah, definitely. It's opposites attract, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It does lead to some difficult conversations sometimes, but yes, opposites definitely do attract. So one thing I didn't get was, where were you based in the UK before?
So we were based in quite a small city, but a city nonetheless. It's called Hereford, and it sits just on the Welsh border. So yeah, it was kind of like a rural city, an agricultural city, but it's very beautiful.
Right.
And I miss it. I do miss it a lot, but I didn't realise how much I missed it until I left.
Yes, that is often the case. And where have you ended up now in Germany?
So we now live in a small town just north of Augsburg in Bavaria.
Okay. How has your time in Germany been then? How long have you been here, first of all?
It's coming up to 2 years. So it's officially the 1st of August, 2019 we moved in.
Okay. So you're fresh.
But basically, yeah. Yeah, because we moved, I actually moved from the September, but we officially became residents in the August. And then I went back to the UK and came back again. And then we had, 8 months before the pandemic. And I didn't have a job during that time. So we were being quite careful with money and careful where and how we travelled. So yeah, we didn't really get to see a lot. And then the pandemic hit. And yeah, it still definitely feels like we're fresh-faced and still trying to fit in and find our way.
Yeah. And I think it's a case of a lot of the foreigners that arrived at around about that time. They maybe just got a bit of a taste of Germany or life here, but they didn't really get a full experience because then the lockdowns came and so on. And I think now as things open up, it'll be a good chance to really have some good experiences of Germany and hopefully like maybe develop some kind of connection to the place. Do you feel you've got a connection to Germany already?
Yes, yeah, definitely. There was a rocky patch, but the past 6 months, it's grown. I mean, I nearly cried earlier on. Our local cafe is open again for indoor dining as well. So our incidence rate is low enough now that we can allow indoor dining, and I was just so happy for. It's such a stupid thing. Like, a year and a half ago, we wouldn't have even batted an eyelid at that. But yeah, it was just because they're all local. I don't know about you, but I mean, even in the city, you rarely see a chain restaurant. I mean, there are McDonald's and there are Burger Kings, but there's not that many of them compared to Britain.
Yes,
and it's all local restaurants and local business owners, and that just fills me with joy. I love that.
Yeah, so I'm interested when you say that you had a bit of a rocky patch, and you also mentioned earlier that you're kind of an anxious person. So maybe you can just talk a bit about what that rocky patch was like for you.
Terrible.
And that's the podcast, folks. That's all we have.
It was awful. I mean, I've suffered with depression for about 15 years now. And when we moved, 2019, I lost my granddad in 2019, the early part. And then I had some other family issues on top of that. So I think it was there, just kind of bubbling. And then when we moved to Germany, I think I literally ran away from all of my problems. And then I had that magical 2 months when I was first here where everything was new and amazing.
The honeymoon period.
And then, the honeymoon period. And then it sort of started to hit me, I was applying to job after job and getting rejection after rejection or just not hearing back. And it got to a point, the weather started to get worse, and I had no money to go home and see my family. And then it got to about November 2019, and I just started to crash.
Okay.
And for about November, December, and January, I would say about 3 months, I was crying probably almost every day. And there was a few days where I genuinely couldn't get out of bed. Just kind of not wanting to exist anymore and that sort of thing. Quite scary, scary stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it hit me harder than I thought it would, I think. I just got to the point as well in my life in Britain, I'd spent most of my teenage years, I was quite introverted. I didn't have very many friends. And then when I was about 24, 25, I got a job that I really loved, and I started to go to the gym, and the gym was where I found myself and found my friendship group, and I became more confident and stuff like that. So I'd really kind of come into my own right before we left Britain, and I was so happy with who I was and where I was. And then so I kind of felt like I was okay to kind of tackle a new challenge. But yeah, that wasn't the case. I'm coming back around now. I'm definitely coming back out the other side, but it was a shock, I think.
I'm so pleased to hear that that things are looking up. But it's what do you think it was that was the main cause, or was it just a conjunction thing? Because I know that job thing can be pretty tough. I mean, how many jobs did you apply for, and how many rejections did you get?
Well, I think I applied to over 200 jobs in the end, which I've never, there have been times where I've applied to 20 jobs. It's straight out of uni and that sort of thing. But I think the worst thing was most of them just didn't respond. I didn't even get a copy paste rejection email, which I would have been fine with. I've never had that before when nobody's responded to me for a job application. That was really strange. And then of the 200 job applications, I got 3 interviews.
Oh my God. It's a numbers game, people. It's a numbers game. The more you throw out there, the more chance you get. So you had 3 interviews, and was it a case of the first 2 didn't go well and then you got the third one, or how did that work?
So one didn't really go that well. I think, and also I was punching with the job role. I was definitely, it was a job role that I was not qualified for.
Okay.
And I know that I think women are quicker to say that they're not qualified for a job role than men, but I definitely wasn't qualified for it. And then the other interview went really well, but they decided to promote someone internally. And then the third one went very well, and that's the job role that I got, and that's where I am now.
That's amazing. But yeah, it must have been quite a journey to get that. So that was
frustrating.
Yeah. Do you think that how was that when you were not getting any responses? Was that kind of fueling the way that you were feeling at the time?
Yeah, definitely. It was so draining.
Yeah.
And I think, but then, I mean, it was bringing me back down to earth as well, because I think I'd moved here with this kind of arrogance of being white and British and thinking that everyone would speak English anyway, and it's fine, they'd take pity on me, that kind of thing. And then obviously that's not how the real world works, and I very quickly found that out. But it definitely was so draining. The not hearing back part, I think, was more draining than anything else. That, and then it was the small things. I was missing the small things from home. I was starting to miss friends and family, and it kind of all piled on top of me. Yeah.
It seems like it was particularly bad, because I read in a blog post that you wrote somewhere. I didn't write down the name of the blog post, but you wrote that you'd been to the dentist, and it turned out that you'd ground your teeth.
Ground.
Sorry, English native language gone. So much that your jaw was in a different position, and your teeth shape had changed. And was that only in Germany, or did you have this problem from before?
That's happened in Germany. So I don't have a bite anymore. So I can't. When people just, I know you're not supposed to do it, but you rip the end of the tape off, or the cling film with your teeth. Can't do it.
You can't do it.
I've got a big gap of probably about 1 centimeter between my top and my bottom teeth now when I smile. And it's, I was grinding my teeth, and my jaw just, I forget what it's called now.
Okay.
But yeah, it got to the point I was in so much pain that I was just not sleeping anymore. So I went to the dentist, and they were amazing. They were absolutely brilliant to me. It's the best dentist experience I've ever had, because I hated the dentist in Britain. I mean, nobody likes the dentist, but I was terrible, and I never went, actually. I was so bad. But I've never had a filling, so I was always just well, I don't need to go because there's nothing wrong with my teeth. And it was don't do that.
It turned out.
I'm not encouraging that. But I went, and the funny thing was the dentist he said, oh, I can see what's wrong, and it's this, and this is what we need to do. And then he was like, in German, he just said, I have the cure. You just don't need to stress anymore. And and he said it in like, it's kind of that German direct way, but I didn't take any offense from it. He said it in kind of a lighthearted way, but it's just like, great, thanks.
Thanks, buddy.
I'm cured. So I had I've got a bite splint thing fitted, and then I've been having physiotherapy as well for my shoulders and my neck, because that's kind of where it all comes from.
Okay.
My stress and anxiety goes up into my shoulders, and I hunch over and stuff.
Yeah. You said that you're now sort of things are looking up and you're getting past the rocky phase that you experienced. Was there a low point, and what did you start doing to turn things around?
The lowest point was we drove back to England for a week in December 2019, and I genuinely thought about kind of veering the car into oncoming traffic.
Right.
So I was like, I don't think I'm okay.
Alarm bells.
Yeah, definitely started ringing. But to be honest, when I got my job, I mean, originally the plan, I thought about maybe just flying back to England, finding a part-time temporary job, saving some money, improving my German skills, coming back in a few months and trying again. And that was in the January 2020. Had I done that, well, we all know what happened next. I would have ended up being stuck in the UK. Yeah. Luckily, I got my job. Things did start to get a little bit better, but I think when this past winter came around again, and it became clear very quickly that we wouldn't be able to get home again to see our family, I certainly didn't go as low, but I definitely dropped again. And kind of over Christmas, I was just like, this is it. I've got to do something. I have to help myself. Otherwise, this isn't going to get any better for me. So I took the plunge and finally found myself a therapist, which is, God, I wish I'd done it 15 years ago. I wouldn't be in this position.
That's the first time that you had a therapist in your life?
I had seen NHS counsellors, which are, the NHS is the English, the healthcare service, and they were okay, but they just weren't good enough, I don't think, for what I needed. Yeah. But I actually sought out a specific type of therapy, which is EMDR therapy, and I cannot remember what it stands for.
It's eye movement. Eye movement. I can't remember what the DR is. I think it's eye movement, right?
Yeah, it's eye movement. So basically, we go back into kind of past traumas, as it were, and relive memories. Yeah. And I move my eyes and do some tapping and that sort of thing. And
eye movement, desensitization, and reprocessing is what it's called.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So yeah, when I first heard of it, I was sort of like, I thought it sounded a little bit stupid. I was kind of like, what is this? But yeah, as I've kind of gone on, it's definitely really, really helped me.
Yeah. I only know about it because I've recently had it as well. So, I mean, this is your story now and not my story, but I also recently had therapy for the first time in my life. That's like, it's never been something. We had some events that happened in actually 2019 that like it really sent me down into the darkest place that I've been in my life. And it was also my first experience with a therapist. And it was also, I got introduced to EMDR, which I think really, really has helped me. I don't have any comparisons because like I said, this is the first time I've really had to deal with depression, but it was definitely something that I feel has helped me cope with what happened in 2019. So it's the two things that I would say is definitely it's worthwhile seeking out a therapist if you feel like you need help or you're not coping or you experience warning signs like you did, Steffi. Yeah. And because it really can help, especially if you find the right therapist. So what did you say about the therapist? Is it online therapy?
Yeah, it's online. I didn't really know or understand at that time how to seek out therapy in Germany and if I would be able to find an English-speaking therapist in Germany, because although I'm getting better at the German language, I really felt like I needed the therapy to be in English because it makes sense, right? Your native language, especially the fact that I was revisiting traumas from my childhood as well. So it kind of goes back to that. So she actually got recommended to me by my boyfriend's mother, and that's how I found her. So it's all online, it's all over Zoom and that sort of thing.
Yeah. And sorry, I may have missed it, but it was a therapist back in the UK and not in Germany.
Yes, yeah, she's back in the UK, so I'm paying her in British pounds.
Ouch.
And it's very expensive.
Yes, but that what you're talking about there is, I think, something that puts a lot of people off of seeking out therapy. A lot of foreigners living in Germany, because I know for me it was also a case. I've been here for 14 years. My language is, I thought, was at a good level, but apparently only a B1 level. I'm never going to get over that.
You're not bitter about this at all.
I'm not bitter at all, Steffi. I've moved on. It doesn't bother me at all. But I'm a freaking B1 level, and even I couldn't do the therapy in German. It had to be, because that's something that I think that you have to express that stuff in your native language, because that's where you can get all the nuances. You can really get it out. And I think there are a lot of German therapists who do therapy in English, and I guess a lot of them have a very good level of English as well. But I also think that for me at least, I'm not sure how that would be, because I would also think that they would maybe miss the nuances of some of the things that I'm trying to express, or maybe things that I don't even know that I'm trying to express. So it is something that puts you off. In my case, I was lucky enough to find a very, very good therapist who was from the United States originally. She's been here for like 20, 25 years or something like that. So I was very, very fortunate to find her, because it made the world of a difference. And and I could also start seeing her pretty much immediately, which I think is the other problem with the German system, is that you have to wait, right?
Yeah, it's the same in Britain as well. If you go through the health service, you have it's, I think on average it's a 1 or 2 year wait list in Britain, which they're fighting at the moment, because they're saying, especially with the pandemic, everyone's mental health has taken a hit during the pandemic. They need to change it. It needs to be sorted out. Yeah,
they need to do something, even if you have some kind of temporary period where you get ramped up, because that is a big issue. But I think that there are ways to get immediate attention in Germany, specifically if you can indicate that it is quite acute, that you are having some serious thoughts or issues or whatever. I think that there is a good way to get bumped up the queue. So it's worth a shot. But also, you can't, first of all, there are a lot of options for therapy. Like you did, you found someone back home and you were able to conduct your therapy with someone in your native language, with someone from the UK. I was lucky enough to find someone here, but there are options. You can find it in your native language, and there's lots of online options now as well, where people offering their services on Instagram and everywhere. So it's easy enough to find something, and you shouldn't let it put you off if you're having these thoughts.
Yeah. I think there's a website, I can't remember what the website's called. I think it might just be called like findatherapist.com or something. Yeah. And you put in your location and the language that you want it in. I was looking at this the other day for something else, and I was trying to find links to German mental health services, and this came up, and you just put in where you are and the language, and just tons of therapists come up, and pick the right one for you.
Yeah. So for you, the therapy has helped.
For sure. Yeah, definitely. It's allowed me to, it kind of came up that most of what I experience in terms of my anxiety and depression goes right back to childhood, which was interesting for me, because I actually thought it only went back about 15 years to when I was 14, 15.
Okay.
But through doing the EMDR therapy, through jumping back into memories, it's brought out earlier memories that I didn't realize had kind of traumatized me so much. So, I mean, it's been really interesting for me in that respect as well. I don't know. I'm quite self-aware and quite self-reflective on stuff like that. So, I find it fascinating. The human brain is fascinating.
It is, and it really helps, like you said, to delve into that, so that you understand why you're reacting to situations now, and especially things with being a foreigner in a strange country. There's certain ways that you react in certain spirals that it can send you down, but it might all be related to something that's so obvious when you figure it out, that you're like, well, of course that's why it's happening. And I think it's good to figure it out. But it's also interesting that you're able to do that online, because that is also something I thought of before, that it has to be, something like this has to be face to face. But for you, online has not been a barrier, has it?
No, I was like you, I was concerned, especially when my therapist explained the therapy, the EMDR therapy, because it's such a physical thing that you do with the actual therapy itself. And when she explained it to me, I did wonder if there would be some issues, but no, it's been totally fine. I mean, the only issue, we had one session where my German internet decided to just give up for the day.
Okay, thanks German digitization.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's really the only barrier that we've come across.
Yeah.
Poor German connection.
Yes, and I can echo that with my therapy. We started face to face, which was good, and I think it was back then in 2019. It was very good for, like, I had kind of immediate trauma that had to be taken care of. So I think that it was good that I was face to face. And then we switched when the lockdown started happening to online, and I just was like, well, I may as well stop this because it's not going to work. Like, I need that face-to-face interaction. But I did it online, and exactly like you said, I was surprised at how effective it still can be. I think it also says something to how good my therapist is, but it still works. And exactly like you, the biggest barriers have been technical, where sometimes we were having a bad connection, and there's nothing worse than you pouring your heart out about something, and the other person's like freezing up on the screen, and you're like, no, I can't do this. I just can't do this now. This is not going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing that I have is I have fortnightly sessions, which is every 2 weeks. I found out today that apparently fortnightly is a British thing, and not everyone knows what it means.
Yeah, I know. I do, because I come from a Commonwealth country, so I get you, Steffi. I know what you mean by fortnight.
So I've realised now I've got to start explaining myself. That means every 2 weeks.
Although all the kids will think you're talking about a video game fortnight. So.
Oh God, yeah. No, not that. And so she's really keen on me. She's concerned about the week in between, because especially if we have an unfinished memory at the end of the session. So she's very keen. She makes me, I have to journal for 10 to 15 minutes after our sessions, and then I have to go out for a walk.
Okay.
And she makes me do that and kind of checks in on me and makes sure that I've done that. Wow. So, I mean, that's a testament to her as a therapist.
Yeah, that's amazing. That is amazing. Yeah. So I think it's a case of finding the right person. And also, if you do go to therapy with it online and you're not feeling that connection to that person, it doesn't mean that therapy doesn't work. It's a case of maybe trying to find another therapist, because there is such a thing as like chemistry with the therapist. They're very good at developing that chemistry, and the good ones can really create it. But if it's not working for you, if you have someone that you feel is not reaching what you need them to reach or not helping you figure things out, look for another one. It's a case of don't give up on therapy. I think
if they're a good therapist, they will be okay with that, and they will encourage you to say, no, go find someone else, because if they're a good therapist, they want you to have the best possible treatment. And the other thing is, I mean, my therapist said to me when we started, we did all the running through the history and worked out what I needed to work through, and she said to me, I don't expect to have to see you next year, because it's this whole thing. I think in America it's quite big that people have therapists for their life, their entire life, and that's not, unless you've got some seriously deep trauma. But for me, she said, I don't expect to have to see you next year. I think we can work through and process your past memories over the next 12 months, which is amazing, I think, for her to not continue to want to take money from me.
So the therapy was the one aspect of helping you. What else has helped your expat life or your foreign life here for you to turn that sort of dark patch around that you had? Have there been other coping mechanisms that you've used?
Getting back to fitness, I lost it a little bit when we first moved here, because gyms, particularly in more rural areas, gyms are so much more expensive than they were. Back. But also I wasn't really paying for a gym membership back home, because I used to be a spin instructor. I was teaching at the gym, so I was getting the membership for at least a very heavily discounted rate. Right. So that's probably why it felt super expensive when I moved here. So, and obviously I didn't have a job, so it was an unnecessary expense. But I've got back into that the past year, and yoga as well, which I had a physiotherapist or a sports massage therapist in the UK constantly bugged me to do yoga and to stretch more, and because I was running as well as doing spinning and doing other classes and all that kind of stuff, he would always tell me to stretch, and I never listen to him. And I always went to him with broken muscles. And I messaged him when I finally fell in love with it last year and was like, I've finally done it. I've started stretching. So yeah, yoga's been a massive help. But I mean, do you know what really helps here is in Bavaria? It's the outside, the nature here.
Yes.
It's so green.
It is so green. It's so scenic. And you don't have to go very far in Bavaria. I don't know how it is in the rest of Germany, but here in Bavaria, you don't have to go very far. Wherever you are, even where I am, which is further north than you are. And we don't have many mountains, but we've got farmlands and we've got forests and woods, and it's incredible. You don't have to go very far to get to the absolutely scenic areas. And just taking a walk through that is like clears your mind, or taking a jog through those kinds of areas. It is.
Yeah, definitely. I don't even wear my headphones when I go out for a walk anymore. When I lived in England, I used to wear my headphones everywhere because, I mean, I lived in a city, so it was always traffic, always cars. Right. And you don't want to listen to that. So, but yeah, here the birds are so loud, and I go about 1 kilometre east and I've got the river, and it's just, I mean, at the moment it's really high up, it's flowing down from the Alps, and it's just so beautiful. I was just like, why would I want to put headphones in?
Yeah.
It's a thing, isn't it now? Isn't it like forest bathing or something? I've heard is a therapeutic method that's quite new.
I don't know what it is, but I am in.
I don't know exactly what it is, but I think it is essentially going for a walk in a forest and just soaking up all of the natural sounds and vibes of.
I'm going to be looking that up. And if anyone asks me what I'm doing during my work time going through the forest, I'm like, I'm forest bathing. It's therapy.
Exactly. So it's for my mental health.
It's for my mental health and for the job. Yeah, so that it sounds like things are really turning around, and I think the weather helps as well. Like you were saying, when the weather turned bad, plus the lockdowns last year, it was really, really tough time. And but now that things are, I mean, it's still pretty rainy. I don't know about where you are, but here it's pretty rainy. But we've had really, really amazing days in between, and it just completely lifts your mood for days, like when you have a day out and just enjoy the weather.
Yeah, definitely. We went out, I think last weekend it was like 30 degrees or something, and I went out in the sun for all of 2 hours and got completely burnt because I was
you're so English,
white. So British. I didn't take a cap with me, and I've got the top of my head's all still burnt now. It's just I love the sun. I want to be in the sun, but the sun doesn't love me back as much as I love it.
Yeah. So, and where are you now with your whole state of Germany? Of like, are you accepting where you are, or is there still stuff that's kind of dragging you down a bit? Like, what's your general status at the moment?
I'm really, do you know, even over the past few weeks, I've really started to fall back in love with Germany. Okay. It's been sort of the back end of last year, even though I kind of took another dip over the Christmas period. I was kind of accepting. I was just like, it is what it is right now. I can't do anything about it. I can't go home. So I have to accept, you know, I'm lucky I have a job. I'm still working. We have a roof over our heads. We can afford to buy food. And that was enough. But now, again, I think it's the weather. The weather started getting better, and I started getting outside more. And just, completely falling in love with it all over again.
Yeah, I think that helps to develop that kind of connection to the place where you're in, because it also helps everything to be more grounded and feel, I guess, more solid. Yeah,
I think the language, you know, I've become more confident in failing at the language, so I don't mind making mistakes anymore. But that's kind of, but also I'm at a level now where I know I can go out and not have to Google translate what I need to say before I go into a shop. Yeah. So that's a good thing. But also, I know I can walk out. I used to be terrified of being on the phone to my family, walking around town, speaking English, for fear of getting looked at for speaking a foreign language. Right. But now I really don't mind it so much, because I know that I can swear proproperly in German now.
That's all you need.
If anyone looks at me the wrong way,
that's all you need. That's all you need. You're set.
Good to go.
So you run a blog that's called Adventures of Steffi, and I'll put the link in the show notes. You also have an Instagram account, and I'll link to that as well. But I must say, like, you said earlier on that you're a very self-aware person, and I can attest to that. If anyone reads your blog, you definitely can see that, because you have such a wonderful writing style. You have a very great way of putting things very simply, very eloquently though, and really like honing in on what you're trying to say. It's very difficult for me to describe. People should definitely go and look at your blog because I really like how you. I think that you're an amazing writer. Tell me why you started that blog and what's it about? What are you doing there?
Yeah. So originally I started it as a way to keep family and friends that weren't on social media or weren't as active on social media kind of up to date with our goings on, and just to kind of know that we were safe and well and still here. But it kind of grew as I started to meet more people on Instagram in particular, and it was kind of my way of socializing here because I was struggling to socialize in German with Germans. So I was kind of like, okay, well, I'll just socialize with other expats then. And it's been amazing. I've met so many amazing people. So yeah, now I kind of explain the blog as exploring life and language in Germany as a first-time expat. And it's got a few different categories. I look at language, culture, then there's a bit of personal stuff in there, and a little bit of travel, although that's pretty lacking at the moment, given the past 18 months.
Yeah. And you actually, there was a new post today. I guess it's a new post, just went up 10 hilariously weird things all British mums say. And then I'm just going to read some of the headlines out. Building an awesome online community as an introvert. I enjoyed your discussion about generations, which was part of the May on the Move 2021 posts. You wrote very interesting about how Germans have a great view of generations because many of them live together. The generational living, like 3 generations in the same house. Yeah,
with the generations thing, German families living together, about they all sit down to eat together. And I just have a funny, our landlord came around not too long ago, and when we moved in, he left us a table and a couple of chairs, but the table has been repurposed in our spare bedroom as my office desk, and we currently don't have an eating table, a dining table, and he was very, very concerned about this fact that we don't have it. The thing is, I mean, my boyfriend works away during the week, so I'm on my own from Monday to Thursday, so I just sit either at this desk while I'm working, or I sit on the sofa. And that's this very English thing to do, I think, is to sit on the couch in front of the TV and eat dinner. He was horrified that I didn't have an eating table. It was so funny.
But it is, I think, also it's a US thing, a UK thing. It was to a degree in South Africa. It's a thing where not only do some people just not have a dining room table, or it's always got other stuff on it that's been used for other, like repurposed for something else. Washing or for something like that. Yeah, it's very common. Or everyone doesn't sit down at the same time. So you've got such a hectic time that the kids eat at one time, then a parent will eat when they get back from work. They'll just grab something out of the refrigerator, and then maybe the wife will have a midnight snack. I don't know. It's just, everyone eats when they eat, and it's not very combined. Whereas Germany, like you said, that family time of sitting together, sitting down to eat at a table. I kind
of like that. I really do like that.
I love it. Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it is. It is. So I think that is definitely something I really enjoyed that post. And just to read quickly some of the other titles, you're a big comedy fan, I see. So you've got a lot to say about the truth about comedy in Germany, you wrote. And so lots of very cool posts, but Steffi, the one that I want to talk to you about right now is a post that you wrote on the 2nd of January 2021, and it's titled Personal, so this is from your personal category, Inversions, TBR, and Languages. So this was your New Year's resolution, or these were your New Year's resolutions for 2021. So I thought what might be cool is, since we're just about at the halfway point of 2021, I would check in and see how you're doing with these points. So can I tell you what they are and you tell me how you're doing on them, right?
Putting stuff on the internet is great, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's always someone that keep you accountable.
Exactly. That's what I'm doing here, Steffi. I'm keeping you accountable. You can thank me later. This is not right now. It's all fine. So the first one was inversions, and I didn't know what you were talking about, but this is a yoga thing, right?
Yeah. I started last year. I discovered that I could do a crow pose, which I've never even attempted before.
Right.
Purely on the basis that I'm not a small person. So it was a shock to me that I could actually do it. And then it opened my mind, and I was like, okay, well, what else can I do? So this year I'm trying to get the handstand thing going. But the problem is, I'm still working towards it. I'm still doing I do yoga every day. I've done yoga every day so far this year.
Wow.
So but it's with the physiotherapy that I'm having to do with my jaw and my shoulders, it's put my shoulders a little bit out of whack. So I'm struggling to get there at the moment. Okay. But we've got 6 months left. So
and if you've been doing yoga every day this year so far, Steffi, I'm going to mark that one as a check, because I think that is the big the big deal, that consistency. So that's good so far. So not bad. The next one was running, and you said fitness has been my greatest form of therapy for some years now, but your relationship with running has been somewhat rocky over the past 18 months. So you basically wanted to get back to, I think you said 3 runs per week. So how's that been going?
It started off well, as all New Year's resolutions do. Me and my one of my best friends from back home, we actually work out together over the phone, and we were going running. We were calling each other, going running, and we both were like, okay, we want to run a 10K again, because we'd run a 10K a couple of years previous and done really well. So we started running, and then my friend had surgery. Oh. And so she was out for a little, it was a kind of a minor surgery, but she was out for a little bit. And then my knee has just been causing me all sorts of problems. I actually went to the orthopedics office the other day. So all right. Yeah, we'll get there.
We'll give you a pass on that one. But that is the thing about running, isn't it? It's such a impact sport that there is always the risk. Like if you can have the best intentions and be as consistent as possible, but you'll always end up with, there's always the risk rather that you're going to end up with some injury that's going to put you into
that's what I've started hiking though instead, because I find the trails, the softer ground of walking on grass and mud and stuff is actually better for my knees. So
and it's also a workout, because there's like some of those climbs are pretty steep and pretty heavy going.
Yeah.
All right, so that was that. Then the next thing on your list was TBR list. So tell me what a TBR list is, and tell me how you're doing with that.
So TBR, it stands for to be read.
Right.
So it's a reading list, basically. Pretty good. I slowed down over the last month or so, but yeah, it's not going too badly. I've just ordered one of the books that is on that list on there. The Do Germans Do It Better? Or Why Germans Do It Better?
Why the Germans Do It Better by John.
That's it.
John Kampfner. Oh, that looks interesting.
Because I actually want to do a review of that for the blog.
Right.
Because he's an English guy. I don't think he still lives in Germany, but he lived in Germany for some time. And yeah, he's written this book about the German culture and economy and the way it works. Right. Why it's better than the British.
So that's looking pretty good. Your TBR list, you're getting through it. It's looking pretty good. The reading's going to happen. You're still buying new books, so that's fine. We'll give a check on that. And then languages. So German is taking a high priority this year. I went to prepare for and pass my B1 level. I'm already B1. I don't want to brag, but so how is your German going?
Oh, man. I think I said in that post, I reread it this afternoon, I think I said I wanted to pass the exam in the first half of the year.
Yes.
That's not going to happen.
Well, you do have like 3 weeks left.
Yeah, I think actually the biggest thing is I found out how expensive the exams are to take. And I don't actually need proper proof of my language level at the moment. I was very lucky to get a job where they didn't want specific proof, and the way my residency card worked, because I moved here before Brexit, I'm still under the withdrawal agreement, so I can still have free movement as if I was in the EU, so I don't need to prove my language level for my residency. Right. So I'm kind of in two minds. I kind of want to take the exam anyway, because I'm a sucker for a bit of paper that says I can do something. So but I will get there. I will. Also money as well. It costs money to learn
so much
language. I will get there. Yeah. I will get there. I'm determined.
All right. Right. Well, I'm looking forward to the wrap-up post at the end of the year to say how you did. Yeah. So, as I said to people, I can only recommend your blog. It's getting updated very, very consistently, as I can see. Like one blog post came out today. Steffi, it's been so much fun talking to you. And I want to thank you for your openness in talking about these things that sometimes might be difficult to talk about, mental health, for example. But I think it's important that other people who might be going through something similar hears about it. And that's something you're great at doing on your blog. You're very open about these things. And also on Instagram, if you're not following The Adventures of Steffi, you should definitely follow The Adventures of Steffi. And yeah, it's been great to have you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Thanks for listening. If you like this podcast, go on to whatever platform you listen to it on and review it if it's possible. Or you can go to thegermanyexperience.de/rate and give my show a review. Give it 5 stars if you want. You can review it on my website, or there are links to Podchaser or Apple Podcasts where you can leave a review for me. It always helps for me to know what's happening. And also tell your friends. Tell your expat friends, your foreign friends living in Germany or thinking about moving to Germany. Tell them about this podcast. Music in this episode by 10 Cent Janes. Additional music by Ryan Anderson. Until the end, auf Wiederhören.